Didn't add myself to the stage. Okay. What is up, fellas? And welcome to another episode of Rewriting History with me, the Goob. Um, ever since the Dibble debate happened, I have been struggling with thoughts that have been stuck in the back of my head. Watching the downfall of archaeology and not wanting the same fate to happen to alternate archaeology, I guess, has been my concern. But I've been struggling to actually coagulate those thoughts into a coherent presentation. Hopefully, I've managed to do that today, because there are some really serious issues that I think need very seriously addressed. Since the Dibble debate, I've made certain statements. One is that archaeology is dead. I stand by that statement. And another is that archaeologists are, in effect, guys standing on the corner with their underwear on the outside of their pants, screaming at imaginary Nazis. I've said both of these things several times, and I stand by them, and they're going to be the basis for my entire presentation here. So, if you were walking down the street and you saw a guy standing on a street corner with his underwear on the outside of his pants, he's clearly disheveled, he's clearly crazy, and he's yelling at people passing by, and he points out to you and he goes, you're a Nazi, you're racist. Are you ever going to stop and stand there on the street corner and engage with that person and start going, no, I'm not a Nazi. I'm not racist. Actually, you've made a mistake, sir. In fact, when you pointed at me, you did it with your whole hand. I think you might be the Nazi, No, you obviously wouldn't, because that would be insane. No rational, sane person would do that. And that's exactly what's happening with all of this back and forth with people like Dan and all of the mainstream people. It's not a good look, right? And I get that there's a difference, because when you have one guy on a street corner, it's just a guy on a street corner. But this is like 50 guys on the street corner, all wearing their underwear on the outside of their pants, all with PhDs, and they're all in unison going, you're a Nazi. So it is a slightly different situation, but it doesn't change the reality that the behavior of these archaeologists is identical to the behavior of someone standing on a street corner with their underwear on the outside of their pants, yelling at imaginary Nazis. That is what they have been consistently doing. I know that most people do not spend time investigating areas where only archaeologists hang out. But myself, being deeply invested in the NAGPRA story, I've done a lot of that. I've seen a lot of things that other people are never going to see or catch wind of. Even people like Dan, even people like Jimmy Corsetti, who are like in this space. I think that they are broadly still unaware of the extent of which this problem is, the extent of which the woke mind virus has infected and infested archaeology. And I wish I could frame it another way, but that is how it is. It is the woke mind virus taking over an entire institution. And we've seen this happen in other areas. It's like with COVID, you still see a lot of people who are like, yeah, Dr. Fauci lied. Dr. Fauci was a bad apple. He was a bad actor, but make sure you still get your weekly, flu shots, right? And it's like, no, the whole system was broken during that time. It was blatantly and transparently broken. And were there good doctors? Yes, but they were still within that broken system. The good doctors who wanted to do the right thing, they weren't able to. You had doctors giving presentations to Congress who were censored, right? So it doesn't matter even if there are some good apples left. They are confined within this broken system. So it is not just a few bad apples spoiling the bunch. It is an entire systemic rot. The tree is poisonous from the roots to the fruit. You can look at individual archaeologists and see the issue, or you can look at the institution as a whole. You can even look at the government. You have the Department of Interior, who's led by a woke Native American female. You have President Biden, who's giving out directives saying that all federal employees must defer to Native American wisdom and stuff like this. This problem has infected and infested so much deeper than anyone can imagine. And so what happens when you have someone like Dan arguing with someone like Dibble, it presents a narrative to the public that Dibble is the bad apple. If we can get rid of Dibble, archaeology can be saved. If we can just deal with Dibble, if we can just get him to, stop spouting his lies, archaeology can be saved. And that's not the case. The whole system is corrupted. The whole system is broken. And on top of that, I'll go even further and say that all of the drama between Dan and archaeologists, it's all kayfabe. It's all kayfabe, and they are all buddy-buddy, with the exception of Dibble himself. Dan and Dibble, that beef is very, very real. They genuinely hate each other, and they genuinely hate each other because they're the same exact person. They have all of the same exact flaws, all the same exact weaknesses. And so it's like looking into a mirror for each other, and they genuinely do hate each other. But all of this other beef going on, it's kayfabe. They like each other. They're buddies with each other. They understand that this is how they generate revenue, and they generate, fame for themselves. They're getting their name out there. They're getting attention, which they want, especially people like Dibble and Dan, who have no actual self-worth internally of their own, and they derive it entirely from external sources. They need this. They need that drama to continue. They need that riled up audience that they have to cheer them on. And that is not only not going to help the situation, it's going to destroy the credibility of alternate archaeologists as well. Because imagine you have 50 people standing on a corner with their underwear on the outside of their pants, and Dan's walking down the street, and they point at him and they go Nazi, and he stops and he singles one of them out and he goes, "Hey, no, I'm not a Nazi." And he argues with them for, 15 minutes. And then he turns around to another and starts arguing with another for another 15 minutes. It's like, if you watched that happen, would you have any respect for that person at all that is taking time out of their day to argue with crazy people on the street corner? No, you wouldn't. And especially if you started adopting the same tactics that those crazy people on the street corner were. I recently saw Jimmy Corsetti on Twitter posting about an archaeologist in Turkey who's in charge of Göbekli Tepe, or involved in some way with Göbekli Tepe. And he's like dug through his history, and he's like, look, this guy's been charged with sexual assault allegations. Do you really want to trust someone's archaeological work who's sexually assaulting women? And it's like, this cancel culture bullshit is not the way. It wasn't the way in politics. Remember when the left was playing the cancel culture game, and then people on the right started jumping on board, and they're like, well, we'll cancel you back. No, it makes you look like a clown. It doesn't help your image. It doesn't help your group. It's not the way to fight back. Okay. Look at Wandering Wolf. Wandering Wolf is the perfect example of how to handle these things, because he's not only not directly getting involved with the drama, he's not directly addressing specific people, but he's not shying away from the problems, right? He did an incredible expose about how sites around the world, he highlighted not some individual. He didn't highlight Zahi Hawass and go, look, this guy is doing nefarious things in Egyptology and he's controlling this. No, he highlighted the entire world. He showed that this problem is global. It affects all archaeology all around the world. And he showed that these sites are being recreated with modern materials and techniques, and they're being renovated and moved around and reassembled. And this is almost never spoken of. Like, people who visit these sites, 99+% of them have no idea. Even, like Stonehenge has become a bit of a known thing now that it was reassembled, rebuilt in I don't know when it was rebuilt, but it was rebuilt a while ago, right? 1820 or something. I don't know. And that's like somewhat known. What isn't known is that this is a global problem. And that's what Wandering Wolf did, is he highlighted this isn't just some specific issue to Göbekli Tepe. This isn't specific to some individual like Zahi Hawass. It's the entire system participating in this brokenness, right? And that is what we need to do. We need to stop. Dibble wouldn't even have a career right now. Dibble's name wouldn't even be known. Even after the Graham Hancock debate, Dibble would have faded into obscurity if it wasn't for Dan and the ongoing drama that's continued to be generated between these people. And whatever, if you only care about yourself and your views and your YouTube money, like that's a good way to do that thing. You're accomplishing it. Good job, Dan. You've got a big audience who's all there for the drama and the negativity and not actually there for the archaeological information. And they'll cheer you on as you call people scum and worms and all of that. And you're not going to actually accomplish anything except turn rational people off who see you arguing with irrational people. We need to stop addressing individuals and make it clear that the problems with archaeology are not a few bad apples. It's systemic, right? I've talked about this with NAGPRA. Wandering Wolf talked about this with the rebuilding of sites. There are so many issues, though, and highlighting an individual lie that some archaeologist told and making a 20-minute video about how, look, this lie that this archaeologist told, it's sending the wrong message to the public. It's like, if we fix this lie, we can fix things. And that's bullshit. Getting rid of Dr. Fauci is not going to fix the medical system. Getting rid of Dibble is not going to fix archaeology. The entire system is broken and corrupted, and it needs addressed on a system level, not on an individual level. I had a very hectic week this week. I was briefly taking care of a baby raccoon, which looks remarkably like little bears. Like a baby raccoon looks like a tiny little bear. Lots of crazy stuff going on this week. And so with this complex topic, I probably needed to take more time to organize all of my thoughts and put this into more of a like cohesive presentation. I didn't have time to do that. Hopefully I'll still be able to get my message across. But the phone line is open. So if anyone wants to call in and share their thoughts on this, if you have an opinion, whether you agree or disagree, feel free to call in. But yeah, I have a great frustration with the way that alternate archaeologists are participating in this debate, because there's people that you're never going to reach, right? When a crazy person on a street corner points someone out and calls them a Nazi, anyone who's running to the side of that guy with the underwear on the outside of their pants and going, yeah, you get them, take down those Nazis. We've got to go after these Nazis, these horrible Nazis that are walking down the street innocently that you're pointing out. They're not going to be reasoned with, right? Those people are not rational people. Anyone who's swayed by the just blanket sweeping statements of racism, they're not reasonable, rational people that you're going to be able to reach. They're a write-off. Ignore those people, right? We need to be reaching the people who are rational. And you know what rational, reasonable people don't like? Well, they don't like, crazy people on the corner calling everyone Nazis. They also don't like people arguing with the crazy person on the corner trying to say, no, actually, you're the Nazi. It all looks bad to anyone with a sane, rational mind. There is no reason for us to be stooping to this level and playing their game. It only makes us look bad. It doesn't matter if you scored your little point. It doesn't matter if you proved that Dibble lied. Playing this game just turns people off. And look, if you want to be in the drama game and that's how you want to make your living, go for it. But you're not going to be a representative for me and for my community. I reject Dan Richards. I reject everything he does. I do not stand by him. I do not stand by his approach. I think he is a net negative for the community. Even if you think his original Dibble response videos were needed and were good, I hope that most people can look at the way he engages now and go, okay, we've reached a point of diminishing returns. You're obviously not getting anywhere with this. You still have your ardent supporters who, no matter what you do, are going to cheer you on, just like the archaeologists have their ardent supporters who, no matter what they do, are going to cheer them on. But it does nothing to actually progress the conversation. It does nothing to actually benefit our understanding of archaeology. It enriches you, good for you, but I'm not going to allow you to enrich yourself at the detriment of us. There were not enough archaeologists who spoke out against the bad behavior of archaeology because they're captured. They're within the system. If they want to work in archaeology, they know that they can't speak out. They're not allowed to speak out or they'll be blacklisted. We don't have that. And so I'm going to speak out and I'm going to condemn Dan's behavior. I don't approve of it. I don't approve of Jimmy Corsetti's recent behavior. I think that Jimmy Corsetti historically has been a very effective communicator, and I think he's been a net benefit for sure. But I don't enjoy like him going after that archaeologist because he was accused of sexual assault. Maybe that archaeologist is a piece of shit. Maybe he is. But is that really the avenue you want to go down to go, hey, don't listen to his archaeological opinions because he grabbed a titty one time? Like, that's just ridiculous. So, yes, their credibility is history, and I do not want to see our credibility become history as well. The raccoon, a tree fell, and I think I messed up. I think I separated that baby from its mother. The mother wanted its baby. It came back to the tree twice, and I tried giving it back, but there was a lot going on. The tree fell on power lines, so there were like power crews working throughout the night, and I wasn't able to return the baby to the mother. But yeah, she didn't just abandon it. It was a sad thing. It sucks. But yeah. What are some of the other points that I wanted to make? Because again, this truly has been in the back of my mind for over a year now straight. And there's a lot of different issues, and I could highlight like some of the smaller things, but I think the main thing that I wanted to highlight, I did, which is that this issue is absolutely systemic. It's so much worse than anyone thinks. Even people like Jimmy Corsetti and Dan and people who are involved in this drama, I can just about guarantee they are drastically underestimating the extent of the rot that has infected archaeology, because I have very actively researched NAGPRA for over a year now, and it takes me to places like I've watched so many videos on YouTube that have double-digit views of archaeologists giving presentations to other archaeologists and stuff, things that no one else is seeing, hanging out in r/ask archaeology, right? And seeing the conversations on a pretty much daily basis of someone going, hey, I want to write my thesis, but it disagrees with my professor. Can you give me advice? And universally, the response is that, yeah, you'll be able to write your paper. As long as it's a good paper, you'll pass your class, you'll graduate. You're not going to be kicked out of your university or anything like that. But once you graduate, you're not going to get into grad school. You're not going to get hired by anyone. You're not going to get any funding. It's like there will be no retaliatory actions directly taken against you. You'll be able to finish whatever you're doing, but then you're done. You're never going to work here again if you ever disagree. These are common conversations amongst archaeologists and people interested in archaeology. People don't see this stuff. I do. I see it all the time. I see just how bad it is and how rotten it is. It is so much worse than anyone thinks. Archaeology cannot be saved, but do not let them drag us down with them. And the current path that we are on, the current path that Dan, who is like the leading spokesperson for our community right now, is setting us on, is going to drag us down with them. We've lost the institution of archaeology, and that's a tragedy. Now, as we are just starting to get our legs as an alternate community, we are just starting to actually have real relevance and real power to affect things and do our own research. Things are happening in the background that a lot of people aren't aware about. Like there's multiple private groups that are doing LiDAR scans in South America. There's so much happening right now that wasn't happening before. This alternate amateur archaeology, whatever you want to call it, group. It's there's no real cohesion, but so whatever you want to call it, it is really starting to get some legs underneath it. And I don't want to see those legs get cut out before we ever even get started walking. So yeah, again, feel free to call in. I would love to hear your guys' opinions about this. Yes, it is a tragedy, my man. It absolutely is. Now, if it's corrupted, is losing it at this point if archaeology were to disappear now, like if they were to just stop operating, I would say it probably isn't that much of a tragedy because they have fallen so far. But yes, the loss of archaeology, the corruption that has occurred, of course, I wish that archaeology was just operating the way it should instead of under the woke mind virus. It absolutely is a tragedy. Yes, and I get that. There's a lot of people, that's Dan's audience for sure. Dan has attracted a specific group of people who are there for the drama. I've stopped watching Dan, not only because I have personal issues with him, but because I don't enjoy his content anymore. It's just too negative. I really don't enjoy it. And I've seen a lot, far less than I've seen supporting him, but still I have seen a lot of people express the exact same thing. They're like, hey, I'm here for the archaeology. I'm here for the information. And the drama has just taken over, and I'm not here for that. So, yeah, a lot of people do just want to watch the drama, and that's fine. They can do that. But I want to progress our understanding of humanity's past. I want to operate like Wandering Wolf is operating. I want to expose these people, and I want the public to wake up to the fact that they do need to write off archaeology. They do need to stop listening to their ridiculous accusations of racism for everyone who disagrees with them, which I think a lot of people already are. But yeah, we don't need to be embroiled in this endless flame war that gets us nowhere. The people who watch Dibble, they're not convinced by Dan's videos. And the people who watch Dan, they're not convinced by Dibble's videos. They're both lost causes, whether they're there for the drama. Dibble recently came out with a video that was actually surprisingly good. I mean, don't get me wrong, there was plenty of clownish behavior in it, but the directives he gave to other archaeologists, if they follow his advice, it would be wise. But as a part of that video, he has a 5-minute clip of Dan Richards debunking Dan, who's going on about, he's going, hey, if you guys want to go after these archaeologists, here's exactly how to do it. Here's the email addresses you should send them to. I mean, I'm not encouraging anyone to do it, but I know I can't stop you. And if you're going to do it anyways, here's the best way for you to do it, but don't do it. Wink, 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 And yeah, that's not a good fucking look. That's obviously crossing a fucking line. That's not good behavior. It's the same exact kind of behavior that Dan calls archaeologists out for doing. It's that level of hypocrisy and the lack of self-awareness. It's exactly what has destroyed archaeology. And what's crazy to me is that Dan understands this. He understands this because he makes videos talking about it, and yet he can't see himself doing it. So, yeah. But yeah, and I've seen Dan do that several times. And doing that doesn't help. It gives them ammunition, right? That video of Dan doing that, it does look bad. Did the person deserve it? Did they do the same thing to other people? Perhaps. It doesn't change the fact that looks bad. Any random observer who's going to walk by and see that, they go, oh, that's how the alternates are behaving? I don't want to associate with them. What's going to end up happening is just the entire interest in archaeology is going to die. Archaeologists have killed it from the mainstream side. People like Dan are killing it from the alternate side. And we're going to end up left in an isolation chamber where there's a very, very small dedicated group of people who are actually interested in this, and the public just couldn't give a fuck. That's not where I want to be. That's not where I want to be. So if no one wants to call in, yeah, I feel like I've ranted about what I wanted to rant about. I could continue complaining, but I think at that point I'd just be complaining. You know, I feel like the main points I have made. So next week I'm going to be trying to talk about the nubs. I've done this a little bit before, but I need to actually go back and collect the examples. I saw a lot of examples in this previous week. It was just chaotic. I already, have disproved, right? Not that I'm the first person to do it or anything, but I've disproved the idea of the nubs being lifting bosses and for most of the other purposes that they're for. But I've got some really, really excellent examples from a variety of locations around the world: India, Egypt, Rome, Italy, Turkey, South America, all highlighting examples of these nubs are a lot more mysterious than we think, and they're definitely not lifting bosses. So that's going to be next week's episode. Tune in for that. And yeah, I guess I've talked about the CIA and its ties to archaeology. I will say that the CIA does care about this topic for whatever reason. You can draw your own conclusions, whether they be archaeologists get access to other countries and sensitive areas, and so they make good spies, or is it because the CIA is interested in controlling the narrative? Because if you control the past, you control the future, you control the present, yada, yada, whatever. There are undeniable direct ties between the CIA and archaeology. And if they are recruiting archaeologists, they're probably not unlikely to recruit alternate archaeologists as well. I'm not going to make any accusations, but there's some suspect people. That's all I'll say. So anyways, Rubate wants to call. Let me repost the link. There you go. I was just about to end the stream. I was 2 seconds away from ending. But if you want to call in, man, go ahead and call in, and let's chat about it. I just posted it again, so giving you an opportunity to call if you want, because you asked about it. But I'm not seeing a call come in. You should just click the link, enter in a username, or if you have a StreamYard account, it'll probably enter that in automatically, and allow access to your camera, and you're good to go. You don't have to make an account, don't have to download anything, just click the link. But since no one is calling in after reposting the link, I guess that is the end of the stream. So I will catch you next week with the nubs, fellas. All right. Yeah, no one's calling. So later. Peace out.